Hello, this is Camille Paglia. I'm professor of humanities and media studies at the University of the Arts in Philadelphia. And I'm very happy to be talking to you about one of my favorite films, Basic Instinct, a film that, despite the controversy attendant upon its production, has become a great classic beloved by audiences around the world. From the moment the film was announced, it was protested by feminists and gay activists. Production in the streets of San Francisco was almost stopped by protests, and the premiere of the film was protested in all the major cities. Sharon Stone's performance as the vamp, Catherine Trammell, is in the main line of femme fatale portrayals in old Hollywood from Theda Bara and Marlene Dietrich on. Even the credits and score by Jerry Goldsmith of Basic Instinct are gorgeous. We see the sharp edges of architecture like the city of San Francisco or like the cubism of Picasso, a painting in the film, and the reflections of the sea that is associated with the femme fatale in this film. The lyrical music seems to record mystery, ambiguity, sexual pursuit of female by male, and then the stalking of male by female. The credits and score are a kind of homage to Alfred Hitchcock, one of the master directors of the 20th century, and the one who first fused gory crime drama with scintillating, titillating sexual intrigue and glamour. The director, Paul Verhoeven, is an admirer of Hitchcock. He began his early career in Europe, and he is in the main line of the great European art films where woman has a mystique and a glamour that she has lost in so much of contemporary Hollywood. As the director's name fades out, we find ourselves in the strange sexual world of Basic Instinct. The camera pans down over a mirror. We're spatially disoriented, psychologically destabilized. We see two people making love on a bed in what at first seems a very animalistic manner. When the camera comes in for a close-up, we notice the woman on top in the dominant position. She has a kind of mane of blonde hair, which was Alfred Hitchcock's favorite sexual color, of deception and of female power. But we don't see her face. Almost from the moment we go behind the bed and see that the bedpost is constructed like a cage, the tone of the scene begins to subtly shift. A certain menace, a sense of danger comes into the music. The soundtrack begins to manipulate us. The woman taking out her beautiful silk scarf and tying the man's hands to his bed is half torturer, half provocateur. The man seems very willing. The music forces us along until there is an explosion of sexual violence. The woman steals man's penis and uses it against him. The erotic interlude into which we were seductively drawn turns into a grotesque nightmare, a savage, mutilating, barbaric slasher scene. All of a sudden, the film switches into the outside world of men and of daylight and of the normal ethical code. The police are arriving, very full of themselves, very macho. It's the streets of San Francisco that we associate with Alfred Hitchcock's films, as well as Michael Douglas's own television series. The men enter this mysterious mansion very confidently, very proud of their rational detective capabilities. They're confronted with a horror, a mystery which will not be solved until the very end of the film, and perhaps even beyond. Throughout this entire scene inside the mansion, The policemen behave in a kind of callous, cynical, even juvenile way. They make bad jokes about sex, as if sex is something that they control. And that kind of complacency is what the movie is going to destroy. The men walk around the murder scene in a kind of insensitive manner, ignoring the corpse, photographing, documenting. And we hear little snatches of conversation that fill in the cultural and political background of San Francisco. There's a kind of sleazy interconnection in San Francisco between the political and the entertainment world. The mayor is on kind of intimate terms with this dead rock star who's been running this nightclub, which we will learn is been constructed in the shape of a church. There's a sense of San Francisco's corruption on every level, the social as well as the sexual. The rhythms and language of this scene are actually very banal, very ordinary, like that of a B picture. The audience finds this scene very reassuring. Our nerves are on edge after the horrors of the last scene, so that the banality of the language and of the tone of these police officers with their cynical attitude, which comes out of a B picture, sucks us in again and makes us feel we're back to sort of terra firma. This is the way Basic Instinct works. It goes back and forth between ordinary scenes that we recognize from the whole history of crime drama in movies and TV and strange intrusions of the occult. Half the time, we're not entirely clear what we're looking at or who we're looking at. And so there's a kind of systematic destabilization of the audience's expectations throughout this film. As Michael Douglas leaves the house, open hostility breaks out between him and his superior. There's trouble on the police force. We get this scene of really a kind of hierarchical domination by the boss, and Michael Douglas emerges as a seething and conflicted character at this moment. Then we have a cut to a magnificent pan shot of San Francisco, reminiscent of Hitchcock's Vertigo. We see the Michael Douglas and his colleague walking into the building, very much like scenes in North by Northwest even, where Cary Grant walks into the United Nations. The powder blue mansion is deceptively pretty for the Black Widow that it contains.
San Francisco Police Department. I'd like to speak to him, Miss Catherine.
Michael Douglas's glasses concealing his eyes. Again, his cockiness of personality, sense of possessiveness of the territory. The police feel they're in command, but of course, they have now penetrated into the female realm again, and this will be the place where male power will begin to recede after the last scene where it was in force.
Hers is bigger.
All of a sudden, we see a beautiful woman walking down the staircase. We don't know who she is. In fact, this is a case of mistaken identity straight out of a Hitchcock film.
Sorry to bother you. Just got a couple of questions.
This young woman is very voluptuous, but a little bit mannish maybe in her body language. They assume it's Catherine Trammell, but it isn't. It's her double, her lover.
Well, you wouldn't be here otherwise.
After the bloody sex war of the opening scene, this is the first test of wills between male and female in the film, and it's the first time that the men begin to lose. Their powers of observation and deduction seem to be slipping away from them in the presence of a woman's sexual charisma and magnetism. She has a kind of composure, a certain sense of her own power. We're getting the first marriage of exhibitionism and voyeurism in the film, for which Basic Instinct has become notorious and celebrated.
Catherine didn't kill.
The men's last glimpse of Roxy here is beautifully composed. She stands there, half a work of art, like the sculptures to either side of the staircase, and half a kind of butch gunslinger. Then there's a quick cut. We're in the air again in a helicopter shot over the open road on the way to Catherine Trammell's beach house. The scene is reminiscent of Hitchcock's The Burns, and it also draws in archetypal imagery of rocks and water. It's part of the really first-rate artistic level of this film. The beach house turns out to be a mansion. It's nestled among the woods, almost womb-like. The first thing we see are these magnificent sports cars, one white, one black. That kind of is the motif of ethical polarities, good versus evil in the film. The men wander around the grounds of this aristocratic enclave, searching for Catherine Trammell. This motif of pursuit is so crucial to the film. And then they see her, one of the great shots in contemporary film. Sharon Stone smoking very regally against a backdrop of rocks and water. She's like a great vamp figure. She's like Mona Lisa herself, as Leonardo depicts her, against rocks and water. As the men approach, they are a little bit apprehensive, but once again sexually attracted. Catherine Trammell receives them with this almost eerie composure. She knows who they are. She expects them. Did Roxy call her, or is she clairvoyant? There's a kind of supernatural omniscience that Catherine projects in this scene. In this preliminary interrogation scene, the policemen asking Catherine questions seem to be undone by her serene obliviousness, her indifference to the fact that the guy she was dating and having sex with has just been slaughtered. The men try to be cops in a very rugged male way, but she keeps on parrying and thrusting, and we have a sense that they are being undermined, standing on this very precipitous deck over the water. The movement of the water beneath them is very much like the fluid way that Sharon Stone performs here. Everything about her is both seductive, drawing in, and yet pushing away.
I liked fucking him.
Though they try to keep up a brave facade, the men are made very uneasy by the way Catherine is not normally female. That is, she's not nurturing. She doesn't express sorrow. She seems to be almost emotionless. She seems to be a kind of sexual aggressor or adventuress who extracts sexual pleasure from a man without being committed to him in any psychological way. This is the second scene in a row where male authority figures are beating a hasty retreat, trying to keep up the pose of manhood, but in fact feeling as if they have been spiritually undone. We leave Catherine almost like a pagan goddess, mistily communing with nature. Back in the car, their space, the men try to recover their normal personalities. They're simultaneously physically attracted to Catherine, but also rather troubled and uncharacteristically pensive. We're back in the city, this time at police headquarters, which is the ultimate symbol of male authority in the film. Michael Douglas is bursting through the door of the office of the police psychotherapist, who, it turns out, is his ex-girlfriend. We learn a great deal of the backstory in this particular scene. Nick has a history of substance abuse, alcohol, and cocaine. He is essentially in recovery. Therefore, he's psychologically frail, something Catherine Trammell will exploit. Here, Nick tries to recover his masculine identity, tries to reinfuse himself with testosterone after being a little bit dominated by both Roxy and Catherine. There's a kind of rough, buffeting, confrontational language here with Dr. Garner. He tries to have a kind of declaration of independence, saying he can make his way back to normalcy without her. So just as he was slightly dominated before, he tries to dominate the doctor here. She herself is a kind of a hybrid figure. She is a female and therefore exudes sexual power in the film. On the other hand, she also shares the male world of science and analysis, which will be undone by Catherine's power.
I even stopped smoking.
In the reawakening of sexual attraction between these two characters against their will, we are watching the actual theme of the title take place before us. basic instinct, the primal sexual attraction that surges and flows under ordinary human life and compels human beings to do things they really don't want to do and that may tend to be destructive in the long run. Jean Triplehorn and Michael Douglas play this scene brilliantly. The way the director allows us to see the faces very up close with the camera also allows us to feel the kind of wet, tumescent sexual attraction in Jean Triplehorn's face.
How you doing, Nick?
Hi.
Talcott's in there. They're waiting. How'd it go?
She misses me.
Boy, when that
With
girl makes
relief,
it for life.
Nick gets back to the world of men again and resumes his normal macho strutting. The evidence in this particular murder case is now being listed and rehearsed and discussed by the various detectives at the police department. We learn all kinds of details, including that there was cocaine on the victim's penis. This introduces the subject of sex into the room, and you almost feel the voyeuristic tension beginning to rise again. There's a kind of bull session quality, a locker room quality of men among men here. But then the past of Catherine Trammell is detailed. We learn all kinds of odd things about her past, that her parents were killed in a boating accident, oddly enough, that she became the sole heiress of an enormous fortune. We hear about her academic credentials, her very high IQ, as well as her checkered dating history. One of her boyfriends is a boxer who was killed in the ring. So it appears that Catherine is someone surrounded by death. Whether she herself has the evil eye, whether she herself is under a bad star, we won't know for most of the film. Catherine, it turns out, is a best-selling pulp novelist publishing under an alias. In fact, her most recent book was the story of the murder of a rock star. Nick, therefore, has homework for the evening. Relaxed and a bit dreamy at home, Nick, with a sense of eureka and discovery, calls his pal Gus to let him know that Catherine's book has all the details of the murder, the white scarf and the ice pick. And we have a flash of the ghoulish illustration on the inside of the dust jacket that is a flashback to the opening scene of the film. The next day, we're back in police headquarters where Beth, the doctor, is in her position of authority, introducing an expert psychopathologist who now, with almost comical specificity, launches into this unconvincing analysis of the mentality of a criminal who could commit such a horrible act. This is very much like 1950s B films, horror pictures, where we get a kind of comic relief from scientists or psychiatrists who have excessive faith in logic. The entire film, in fact, is about the failure of science to understand extreme sexual or criminal behavior. The director is telling us that art gives us more answers than science does.
Itself, but also in terms of the applied advanced defense mechanism.
You know, sometimes I can't
A
tell
theme
shit
emerges
from
here
shiny.
that is never resolved in the film. Was Catherine's book a kind of pattern for a murderer to follow, or was it the perfect alibi that she herself fabricated in order to commit the
What if
murder?
it's not the writer? What if it's someone who read the book?
You're dealing then with someone so obsessed that he or she is willing to kill an irrelevant and innocent victim in order to place the blame on the person who wrote that book. I'm talking about a deep-seated obsessional hatred and an utter lack of respect for human life.
So we got a once-in-a-lifetime, top-of-the-line Looney Tooney the way you cut it. That's what you're saying, right, Doc?
You're dealing with someone very dangerous and very ill.
Come on, on. You know there's no case here. You've got no physical
The detectives burst out of the room here and thunder down the hall, almost like a herd of buffalo. It's a pattern we often see in this film of men trying to recover themselves by reasserting their physical energy after getting kind of hypnotized and paralyzed and thinking about women. Now, what comes out of this discussion in the elevator and then in the hallway again is that most of the policemen think that Catherine is going to hide behind a superstar lawyer, use a male authority figures to counter other male authority figures. But Nick is beginning to get intuitive. He's beginning to lock onto Catherine or be locked on by her. He says, no, she's not going to hide behind anyone. And the men turn and look at him. At that moment, he's separated from the group. They can see there's something special and different about him. He becomes a rogue male, the first sign of his later unprofessional behavior and becoming involved with a murder suspect. We're back at the beach house where Catherine's mansion is seen against the backdrop of the elements of rocks and water. Nick and Gus are coming to see if they can convince Catherine to be questioned. She comes to the door looking very casual, almost like a beatnik, a bohemian, like Elizabeth Taylor and the Sandpipers, photographed at that very coast.
Could I change into something more appropriate? It'll only take a minute. Come on in.
This is the first time the men have been inside the beach house, and they seem a little bit more impressed than before because they know it's Catherine's money that they're seeing. You have a sense that they're working stiffs. They're a little bit out of place. But the first thing that Nick notices is an old newspaper about a scandal that he was involved in when through excessive macho aggression, he shot some tourists and was called up on charges for it. What is this newspaper doing here? Suddenly, he feels investigated himself and a bit passive. All of a sudden, when Nick is most off balance, he catches sight of Catherine naked, putting on a dress without any underwear. It's a moment of incredible eroticism. It's not clear whether this peeping Tom moment has been a trap deliberately laid by Catherine or simply a happy accident. What is clear is that Nick doesn't share this privileged moment with his pal. The bonding between him and other men is breaking down. In the car, as they return along the coast road, there is a startling moment when Catherine puts her hand on Nick's shoulder. He feels unsettled, his space invaded. It's almost like her presence is magnetic. Catherine's game playing has begun already. She asks Nick for a cigarette, but she herself has cigarettes. And then she begins to smoke in this magnificently elegant manner, tempting Nick, even though she knows that he doesn't smoke. But smoking at this period, of course, in the early 1990s, was already becoming unfashionable. It's anti-PC.
Yes, I am.
In this film, Catherine's flagrant smoking is part of her defiance of convention and violation of the norms. Nick looks at Catherine in the rearview mirror and finds that she's staring at him, the fourth scene in which mirrors are very important. Catherine is oozingly intimate with Nick in this scene. He physically becomes more and more uncomfortable, less easy in his own skin. She exudes a kind of vampiric power. Her eyes are very cold, even while she smiles.
She kills him.
Nick tries to laugh it off, but his eyes show he's seriously unnerved. At the police department, the men courteously greet Catherine, but reveal that she's going to be taped in her interrogation. So we have a kind of movie within the movie. For a moment, we may even feel sympathetic to her. She's outnumbered by the men, and she seems perhaps a bit frail in her white, which is based on the white dress and coat that Kim Novak wears in Vertigo. Nick, with his puffed-up chest, seems to have recovered much of his masculine bravado, although here he is acting as Catherine's protector, as she seems almost like a queen on the way to the guillotine. From the moment Catherine sits down, we begin probably one of the great scenes in the whole history of filmmaking, demonstrating woman's power over man. Sharon Stone plays this scene brilliantly in her relaxed body language, in her authority, in her perverse refusal to put out her cigarette. She turns the men to jelly by the sheer power of her sexual attraction. The editing in this scene, the different camera angles, the kind of gliding close-ups demonstrate filmmaking at its finest.
Men like that. Men who give me pleasure. He gave me a lot of pleasure.
All of a sudden, Catherine is the star and the policemen are the audience. There's a sense of their increasing paralysis. They seem like they're under a spell. They begin to sweat as if in some way sexual woman is able to penetrate into their physiology, to control them because of their own basic instinct, their elemental sexual
I
urges.
like to use his hands too much. I like hands and fingers.
Catherine shocks everyone here, not only the policemen, but the actual audience in the theater, with her boasting about her sexual conquests in the way a man has. She uses four-letter words in an absolutely serene manner. She looks beautiful and feminine, and yet what comes out of her is almost a kind of male soul. She is strangely androgynous in this scene, alluring like any great goddess of Hollywood cinema, but at the same time, it seems as if she's had a transplant of a male brain, a male tongue, and, in certain ways, a male penis.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? The answer
The intensity of looking in this scene, looking on the part of the men, on Catherine's part, on our part, raises the temperature in the scene. There's a kind of sadism as Catherine plays with her prey. There's a kind of evocation of great movies about St. Joan, where in this case the perverse saint, a Mary Magdalene figure, is defying her interrogators. And then the climax is the exposure, accidental or not, of her genitalia, which has made this scene so notorious. What we're flashing here is the center of life as it was understood in pagan goddess cults. The mere sight of the female sex organ seems to destroy the men. Catherine signals her victory by lighting a fire as if to immolate them. The men begin to restlessly move around the room, trying to recover themselves, trying to restore the sexual balance.
Boxing was fun till Manny died.
How'd you feel when he died?
I loved him. It hurt.
How'd you feel when I told you Johnny Bonds had died?
I felt like someone had read my book and was playing
Not
a game.
only has Catherine flirted with and provoked the men almost in the style of a dominatrix prostitute, but she is home directly in on Nick in front of the others and seems to have penetrated to his sexual soul.
Would you like a cigarette, Nick?
You two know each other?
No.
No.
How'd you meet Mr. Bias?
I wanted to write a book about the murder of a retired rock and roll star. I went down to his club, I picked him up, and I had sex with him.
You didn't feel anything for him, you just had sex with him for your book.
In the beginning, I liked what he did for me.
Her cold objectivity as a writer stuns even them with their logical minds. She has conquered them via their bodies in this scene, and now she's going to conquer them via their technology. She challenges them by offering to take a lie detector test. We're looking at a screen within a screen here as Catherine sits almost like a zombie taking her successful lie detector test. Either she's telling you the truth or she's a sociopath. She's inhuman and is able to conquer her own physiological responses. In an amazingly eerie moment, Catherine looks up at the video camera, looks right at us and at Nick staring at the screen. It's as if she is a vampire who's able to break through space and time.
She's such an expert.
Because I know people that have done it.
When Catherine emerges from the lie detector scene, it's as if she's back to being a real person again. She seems to come down from the mythological realm that she was in. But it also gives us a sense that what we have witnessed is a truly magic moment. Then something startling occurs. Nick offers to escort Catherine back home. The men all turn to look at each other. It's a moment when Nick has crossed the professional line and become a self-willed victim.
Not really.
Beating that machine can't be easy.
One of the great historical antecedents to the Catherine Trammell character in Basic Instinct is Circe in Homer, who takes Odysseus prisoner and who is able to turn men into swine by touching them with her phallic wand. So that the image of the murderess in Basic Instinct with her ice pick is a kind of analog to these masterful sorceress figures of antiquity. And it's perhaps coincidental that the greatest performance ever given of Odysseus was by Michael Douglas's father, Kirk.
You seem to know an awful lot about me.
You know an awful lot about me.
In the car scene, there is a feeling of claustrophobia, a certain steaminess as the rain pours down. Catherine taunts and tempts Nick by announcing that she customarily doesn't wear underwear, implying that she's eternally accessible and available. Nevertheless, she dashes from the car, removing her shoes, and we get this shot of her feet bare in the swirling water, bringing us back to the water theme of her beach house. And she runs almost like a nymph or an apparition into her house. Exhausted, physically and spiritually, Nick goes to a bar for sustenance and to be among other men. A fundamental change has occurred in him. He abandons his process of recovery and orders liquor. Everybody looks at him. He's crossed the line. It's as if he's taking the first step on the road to hell.
All right with you, cowboy? She doesn't know me, okay?
There you go, Nick.
I never seen her before, Gus and I
One
fought.
reason there was such a furor over the making of Basic Instinct was that it was coming just a few years after Fatal Attraction, also starring Michael Douglas. This movie, Fatal Attraction, became a kind of a symbol to feminist theorists of the worst aspects of the male establishment in Hollywood. Fatal Attraction, in which you have a career woman playing the role of a vampire, preying on a happy family life. And she is offered as a kind of threat to the good woman played by Anne Archer. So Basic Instinct seemed like a replay of that, where Michael Douglas again is a man tortured by his own sexual impulses. But in this case, of course, his wife has been eliminated.
Into the ring and turned into one mean son of a bitch.
Maybe she did, Gus. Maybe she grew herself an afro, developed a hell of a left hook, and put shoe polish all over her face. Let's polygraph her again and ask her. Fuck you. Fuck you, too, Nick.
In this world of men, at the bar, Nick fuels himself with testosterone-inciting alcohol, scuffles with another man, and struggles to recover his own masculine pride. Then who enters the bar but the doctor, his ex, Beth? What's she doing there? Is she trailing him? She certainly seems out of place in the bar.
You hear me? I'm off duty discussing the case. Now, IA shouldn't have a problem with that. Maybe I should put in for some overtime, huh?
Don't work too hard, shooter. Might drive you to drink.
Stop riding me, man! I'll kick your fucking teeth in!
What's the problem?
She
No problem.
intervenes and with rather masculine body language herself, stops a fight from developing.
Fuck off, Marty.
You kids have a good time tonight, huh?
He's asking for it.
That's right, so don't take the bait.
You wanna go?
And then, in her caretaking nurse role, escorts Nick from the bar as their sexual attraction rekindles.
Just to get off the hook with internal affairs.
Oh, he ain't that way. He's got a heart.
At her apartment, a scene unfolds that is highly controversial. Does Nick date rape Beth? Is he already a criminal after contact with Catherine? Does she somehow provoke it? Does it work two ways? Whatever, we have the most violent scene of sex in the movie since the opening murder. The bottled, contained energies and conflicts that Nick has been experiencing since he was drawn into the Catherine Trammell case overflow here. The brutality of the sex in this scene is in keeping with the theme of basic instinct. We're getting something genuinely primitive, a spasm of animal domination coming from Nick here. Beth seems to half respond. But Nick treats her in an almost animalistic or brutal way, forcing sex on her from behind, almost impersonally, so that the scene does seem to become a rape. If, heaven forbid, one can imagine making Basic Instinct now, oh, it would be all tarted up and sanitized and homogenized. People would feel the need to add some good lesbians living next door so that we clear that the movie wasn't stereotyping gayness. You would have probably a few more scenes of Catherine crying and showing her soft side. The date rape scene between Beth and Nick would absolutely get excised, or he would be seen weeping with remorse, locked in the bathroom.
You've never been like that before.
Both Nick and Beth seem awakened, guilty, remorseful afterward.
You weren't making love to me.
No illusions left.
You weren't making love.
I need a cigarette.
I thought you said you quit. It's the top drawer of the foyer. Get it on your way out.
Basic Instinct is in the main line of film noir, a style of filmmaking in Hollywood mainly confined to the 1940s and early 50s, where you have very stark contrasts between black and white, a great use of shadow. It's a morally ambiguous world where there's a kind of flawed hero often pursuing or being threatened by a duplicitous woman, a woman of easy virtue, a woman who lies not just because she is a questionable person, but because she's female. It was Alfred Hitchcock who was able to add Technicolor to film noir and show that it was still possible to create a world of mysterious shadows and of moral ambiguities with a full palette. And it was in a film like Vertigo that he was able to achieve it. Basic Instinct has perhaps a more sepia tone, therefore doesn't have quite the glowing color of Hitchcock's late 1950s films, but it seems to almost be bleaching itself of its own color as part of its representation of a world dissolving into madness. Assigned to follow Catherine, Nick trails her in his car, and there is a phenomenal chase scene that is a parallel to the sexual theme of the film. Catherine, of course, in her sports car, proves herself to be a very aggressive, masculine driver, leading Nick on a wild goose chase, very similar, actually, to a scene in Hitchcock's To Catch a Thief, where Grace Kelly takes Cary Grant in a hair-raising ride around the Corniche in Monte Carlo. Again, the sexual roles have been reversed. Catherine seems to know the roads, their serpentine pattern along the edges of the cliffs and mountains. It's part of her command of nature in this stark Northern California landscape. Nick arrives in a small town he has no knowledge of. It's almost as if we're in another dimension. It's like the Twilight Zone. It's a bit reminiscent of Melanie Daniels arriving in the small town of Bodega Bay and Hitchcock's The Birds. But it's as if we've gone way back in time. We're in America's heartland. We're no longer in sophisticated San Francisco, but in some vanished part of rural America. At first, Nick wonders, is this a family member? Is this someone with whom Catherine has a normal human relationship? We won't know the answer until later. Nick is a little delayed in trailing Catherine and seems to lose her because of a minor fender bender in the road. Finally, he gets back to her house, finds the black sports car that's identified with her parked there, enters the garden through the door, and is transfixed by the sight of her undressing. We, too, look at this misty, rosy window almost as if it's a movie screen up on the wall. Is Catherine aware that she's being watched? She always seems to be most herself when alone, exuding a kind of autoerotic charisma. It's always with relief that Nick returns to the police station and to its technology. Later that night, he's running the name of Hazel Dobkin through the computer and finds out that she has an arrest record, but the nature of her offense is unclear.
You got nothing better to do than come in here.
Then there's a rendezvous here with his pal, Gus, who brings information about Catherine's past from Berkeley. So we have a kind of convergence of fact at the police department.
And guess what? He was her counselor.
Was she a suspect?
No, sir. They never even got a statement from her. Hazel Dobkins.
You know her?
Couldn't get it out of my head for years. Nice little housewife, 3 little kids, nice husband, wasn't porking around, no financial problems. One day, out of the clear blue sky, she does them. All of them. Used the knife she got for a wedding present. Didn't even deny it. Sweet as honey. Said she didn't know why she'd done it.
Hi.
Am I disturbing you?
The next day, Nick comes to the beach house to confront Catherine with his new evidence about Hazel. Little does he realize that she has already trumped him by gathering yet more evidence about his past. The sight of yet more newspaper articles will unnerve him.
You don't mind, do you? I was just gonna make myself a drink.
He now enters a part of the house he has never seen. It seems to be half architecture, half nature. We see the rocks and the ocean outside the great picture windows. The plants inside give us a feeling of a kind of a nest, a kind of perhaps an eagle's nest. As Catherine prepares a drink for the two of them, she's using an ice pick, the very weapon of the murder. Huge blocks of ice are in front of her as she slashes and penetrates, almost like a sculptress, the ice for their drinks. The ice itself is a kind of symbol of her heart. She herself is a kind of work of art or block of ice that the police try to break into and discover the soul of.
Four shootings and 5.
Blonde is one of the great themes of modern popular culture. It's implicitly racist, since blondness is a characteristic of Caucasians, and in particular, Northern Europeans. It was probably Jean Harlow who began the whole mystique of blondness in cinema. She's the one who fused sexuality with the color blonde and turned it from meaning angelic to something erotic, something artificial and exquisite, making a woman a kind of artifact of culture. There are a whole series of blondes. Marilyn Monroe, of course, is the most famous one of the 1950s and imitated by a whole host of international stars, from Anita Ekberg to Mamie Van Doren, to Diana Dors, to Jane Mansfield. In the 1950s, blondness was turned back toward the virginal by Debbie Reynolds, and Doris Day, and Sandra Dee. It was really Madonna in the 1980s who resurrected the associations of blondness with sin and with the femme fatale. So it was kind of an irony of Hollywood history that Sharon Stone, like her character Catherine Trammell, acts as a kind of vampire in becoming more Madonna on screen than Madonna has ever been able to do. Sharon Stone, who in her earlier career had been making film after film without particularly leaping forward as a sexual persona, with Basic Instinct, made herself into a major icon.
Internal affairs new.
As Catherine reveals more and more about Nick's past, he becomes more and more hostile and aggressive himself, and there's a kind of love battle between the two of them, mutually attracted but already in sadomasochistic combat as he twists her wrist behind her back.
Nikki liked it. That's why she killed herself.
It's when Catherine taunts Nick with her knowledge of his wife's suicide that he shoves her back with a kind of animal cry, which in turn brings Roxy, the lesbian lover, down the hallway, dressed in black, the color of evil. All of a sudden, Catherine is very affectionate. "Hi, hun," she says to Roxy, flaunts her bisexuality by embracing her, even touches Roxy's breast very overtly. And it's not clear whether she's inviting Nick to a threesome or just daring him to try to compete with his own sexuality. Nick responds by marching out of the house, but he looks as if he's defeated.
Entrance exam. Oh, I'm gonna have to give you a call back. Yeah, let me call you back. Right. Detective, you can't go in.
Who's got access to my file?
What are you talking about, Nick?
Who has access?
Surely part of Michael Douglas's power on screen, in Fatal Attraction and in Basic Instinct, is our sense of him as the heir of one of the most heroic macho figures of classic Hollywood, that is Kirk Douglas, who was always abundant in his male energy, and even in films like Young Man with a Horn, still managed to emerge with his male ego relatively intact. There was no self-questioning, no ambivalence, no sadomasochistic undertones. Michael Douglas, as an actor, is truly of his time. There are so many complexities in him. I think that despite his enormous stardom, that he actually has been underrated as a serious actor. His intelligence, his empathy, our sense that in some way he's redefining what manhood is in the late 20th century. I do think that this matched pair of performances in Fatal Attraction and Basic Instinct will be truly emblematic of the last half of the 20th century in movie history.
You've got a real conclusive way of demonstrating that.
She knows where I live and breathe. She's coming after me, Gus.
What is it you got between you?
I don't know.
Something, though.
Something.
George Jefferson is unfair. He's short with no hair. Nick? Nick, are you there?
Go away, Beth. I don't want to see you.
I still have my key.
Put him on the table and leave. Put it on the goddamn table and leave!
Damn it! Don't shut me out. You owe me more than that.
I don't owe you anything. Hey, you don't owe me anything. We went to bed, 10, 15 times maybe? It wasn't memorable enough to carry an obligation.
Sometimes I really hate you.
Oh, why don't you get yourself some friendly little therapist? I'll work out some of that hostility. And maybe you can get off once in a while.
Many of the scenes between Beth and Nick that some people have interpreted as misogynist seem to me closer to Apache dances. That is where sex war is at its maximum, where the love-hate relationship between men and women explodes volcanically. I think the energy of those scenes, difficult as they are to watch, pours off the screen.
My evaluation, he said I wasn't objective. So I made a deal with him to review the session notes himself. I didn't think he'd show them to anybody.
You did it for me.
Yes, I care about you. I did it for you.
Go away, Beth. Please, just go away. You. On my way.
One shot. Close range, probably a .38 caliber revolver.
Give me a gun, Nick.
You think that...
I don't, Hoss. But I got the minority opinion.
Okay, I went after him. I lost my temper.
Do you have any evidence that he showed your psychiatric file to anyone?
No.
We'll speak with you afterwards, Dr. Garner.
I'd like to sit in.
When Nick becomes a suspect after the murder of Lieutenant Nielsen, we find him sitting in the same chair, in the same room, subject to the same interrogation as Catherine was earlier. It's very eerie. It's as if she has somehow been his precursor, he has become her proxy, and they have merged in some odd way.
Yeah, I was drinking.
When you start drinking again?
A couple days ago.
I saw Detective Curran at his apartment about 10 o'clock last night. He was sober and lucid. I asked him in my capacity as his departmental therapist about his altercation with Lieutenant Nielsen. He expressed regret and displayed no hostility.
How long were you at his apartment?
About 15 minutes. I saw there was no reason for my concern and left.
There's no smoking in this building, Detective.
What are you gonna do, charge me with smoking?
Oh, for Christ. All right.
When Nick makes the same witticism about smoking that Catherine did, we seem to hear her voice coming out of his mouth.
No. Come on, I'm gonna storm into his office in front of everybody in the middle of the day and kill him that night? I'm not that dumb.
Going after him before gets you off the hook for killing him. That's your alibi.
Like writing a book about killing a guy gets you off the hook for killing him.
Good point.
I don't understand. What are you talking about? What book?
Private joke, asshole.
I don't think it's funny. You're going on leave, Curran, pending the outcome of a psychiatric evaluation.
Beth, I'll get my stuff in a minute. Beth. Thank you.
It's the least I could do. considering I got you into this mess with those reports.
No, I mean it. Thank you.
How do you know Catherine Trammell saw your file?
She knows things about me that I only told you.
She must really be something. From a clinical point of view.
What was she like in school?
I hardly knew her. She gave me the creeps, though. I don't know why.
There's a moment as Nick and Beth leave the building where we almost feel it's a kind of false dawn. These two people momentarily seem to escape all of the tension and conflict of their scenes earlier in the movie. Beth seems to become a kind of normal, nurturing woman. We ask ourselves, is Nick now going to escape his bondage to the femme fatale? She gives him a kind of perky, chipper smile, farewell, as she goes back to her car. But the moment his back is turned, the mask falls from her face, and the movie allows us to see that this is a woman not to be trusted.
Hey, you take care of yourself.
What'd you find out about the parents?
You're on leave, man. You're on psycho leave. I mean, I'm talking to a possible wacko here.
Well, you know I'm wacko, Sam. What'd you find out?
The boat blew. There was a leak in the fuel line. There had been 2 previous repairs. They had a $5 million policy on both of them. A real heavy investigation, but they got zilch. Big goose egg. It was an accident.
IA's going to talk to you more about Nilsson. They're handling the investigation. We're not. You stay in touch with Dr. Garner. It'll help on the evaluation.
She killed him, Phil.
Beth? Now you got Beth killing people?
Catherine Trammell, it's part of her game.
First you got her stealing your file, now you got her killing Nielsen? Forget about her, for Christ's sake. Go somewhere, sit in the sun, get her the hell out of your system.
You don't buy it, do you? She knew nobody'd buy it. She knew I'd say she did it, and she knew that nobody would buy it.
She is screwing with your head.
After the labyrinth of the police department, where there's a kind of warren of rooms, we're never quite sure where we are in the windowless environment, we get a glimpse of the Transamerica Tower rising in a great phallic, high-tech statement over modern San Francisco. And in several shots now, we get a contrast between the old picturesque residential buildings of San Francisco and the new geometric forms of contemporary life. This film is so much about the contrast between the technological, the hard-edged, the logical, and the organic realm of nature with the swirling, murky waters that represent emotion and sexual desire.
I have friends. I have friends. Money buys a lot of attorneys and friends.
I wouldn't know about that. I don't have any money. I don't have any
As
attorneys.
Nick discovers Catherine waiting for him, almost like a vagrant or hippie, in front of his apartment building, a much more natural relationship seems to develop between them. She is more humanized, but he is able to retain power by remaining masked himself. He uses his sunglasses, like Marlon Brando in The Wild One, as a kind of barrier between himself and her, so she can't see his eyes. Still, in some way, he fears her eyes, the eyes of the vampire that could suck his soul right out.
Don't be so sure.
Why not?
I'm very unpredictable.
You ought to put some warmth into the place. You don't want it to reflect on your personality.
As Catherine enters Nick's apartment, he now plays host and offers Jack Daniels to drink. All of a sudden, the motif of the ice pick reappears and nags at us in a certain way. Block ice. Where would that be available in America in the early 1990s? We haven't seen block ice since it used to be delivered by the Iceman in the old refrigerators of the pre-World War II era. And ice picks have never been sold at Kmart. The fact that Nick cites the price of the ice pick from Kmart suggests that he just bought it as part of his investigation of the murder. But when has he had any time whatever to go shopping at Kmart, which is a suburban store?
Thanks.
The ice pick is a metaphor and makes the movie timeless. It's like a knife that a man might carry at his waist in the frontier days. It's like a sword that he might have in the medieval period. Therefore, a woman stealing the sword, turning the weapon into a sharp dagger, has a kind of mythological power for us, even if we can't quite make sense of it. Ice picks don't belong to contemporary kitchenware. They have come into the film from the old tabloid era of yellow journalism, of the penny press, of weird crimes in the tenements and slums of New York. It belongs to the detective stories of the 1930s and the film noir of the 1940s.
No, it's not. So where's this going? What do you want from me?
Say, what do you want from me, Catherine?
What the fuck do you want from me, Catherine?
I brought you something.
Catherine hands Nick a copy of her first novel. We see the cover with her alias, Wolf, which appropriates the name of the major feminist novelist of the 20th century. The subject of this book, the first time, is the story of a boy who plots to kill his parents by a plane crash. This introduces the question into the film of whether Catherine has herself murdered her parents in their boat accident, which was the result of a fuel line exploding. Is she therefore a monster?
Absolutely not.
Good, I'd miss you. You could get in trouble, though. You're not really a cop anymore.
I'll risk it
Why take the risk?
to see if I can get away with it. How's your new book?
It's practically writing itself. Oh, I'll be leaving about midnight, in case you are gonna follow me. I'll be at Johnny Vaz's club.
I'll meet you there.
Hi, Gus.
Forgive me for asking, Hoss, and I don't mean to belabor the obvious. But why is it you got your head so far up your own ass?
You want to play? Fine. I can play.
Everybody she plays with dies.
I know what that's like.
When Nick goes to meet Catherine at the nightclub, he is making a descent into the underworld in terms of classical epic. He is divested of his normal structured male suit. He's just wearing a simple sweater without a shirt. He goes into a kind of human zoo of different sexual combinations, ambisexual, multiracial. There is a pounding, driving techno beat, a kind of trance music that induces delirium. Roxy strides toward the men's room and goes through the door as if she herself were a drag queen or a kind of transsexual. Inside the men's room, every kind of lesbianism and drug taking is going on, and there is Catherine enthroned again, as in the interrogation scene, this time on a toilet, where it's a kind of literal slumming, as this millionairess is finding her thrills and chills in a very degenerate urinal situation. There is a moment when Nick seems like he's about to join in the party, but is locked out, almost like being locked out of a kind of hellish paradise as she kicks the toilet door shut in her little prison cell of depraved pleasures. Catherine's dress cut down her back to her buttocks is a masterpiece of design, reminding us of the great dress that Rita Hayworth is wearing in Gilda, which almost comes off her as she does her strip. There is a provocativeness in Catherine's dancing with Roxy. At first it seems like the two are totally at one with each other, but all of a sudden, Catherine, with a kind of exploitative gesture, dances toward Nick, and for the first time, we start to see what looks like a very dangerous level of hostility and jealousy in Roxy, who flounces off. The erotic world of San Francisco is seen as in a state of chaos and moral decay. Catherine is presented as a kind of queen of the underworld. The nightclub is yet another of the claustrophobic interiors of Basic Instinct that the film constantly contrasts with the natural elements and open spaces of the seacoast and the road. The architecture of the nightclub is based on that of the Limelight in New York City. It looks sacrilegiously like a cathedral. The bartenders are dressed like priests, and there is a feeling of a pagan ritual and decadence. We go directly from the dance floor of the nightclub to Catherine's mansion in the city, where the two are in the throes of physical passion. This is one of the most explicit and well-done sex scenes in recent memory in Hollywood filmmaking. It had to be censored and shortened slightly for American release. And it was many years before American audiences could appreciate the choreography of the combat in the bedroom or boudoir. We have a kind of flashback to the actual murder scene that opens the story. The underlying tension for the audience is whether this scene of grappling, almost animalistic figures will turn into slaughter. We become rightly uneasy when the camera shifts behind the bedpost. All of a sudden, Catherine seems to turn into a wild beast, a tigress, and claws Nick's back. The sensual energy between the two turns into open hostility. We see the fear in Nick's face, particularly when Catherine pulls out a white silk scarf exactly like the one used in the murder scene. She strokes it in a very erotic manner and begins to wind it around the bedpost and Nick's wrists, almost as if she's a spider spinning a web. This picks up a motif present in Verhoeven's earlier, very famous film, The Fourth Man, which is also about a homicidal woman. The bondage seems to stimulate Nick. He has what is almost a painful second orgasm. Catherine's spasmodic movements of triumph seem to begin to segue toward her reaching for we don't know what beneath the sheets. Will it be the ice pick? Our eye is fooled momentarily as we seem to be about to witness Nick's demise. Instead, Catherine simply falls forward and the scene ends. The male has survived his encounter with the Black Widow. Nick seems to have recovered his personality by smoking a cigarette and swaggers away from the bed almost like a kind of gunslinger, even though he's totally nude. He goes into the bathroom and, as if taking water out of a creek in a Western, begins to refresh himself when he suddenly encounters an intruder, he thinks. It's Roxy, who has been apparently watching voyeuristically the entire sexual encounter. Now we have another one of those great confrontations that Basic Instinct is justifiably renowned for, between a very sexy and rather butch lesbian and a totally nude man who feels victorious after his sensual encounter with the femme fatale. Nick calls Roxy Rocky, either to deliberately mangle her name or as a kind of compliment. She's a victor, a boxer, a pugilist in the sexual arena. He knows that they're parallel figures in the way they're oriented toward the charismatic woman, the voluptuous femme fatale. So he treats her as an equal. Let me ask you man to man. By calling Catherine the fuck of the century, Nick is being deliberately, insultingly chauvinistic and also realistic. When Nick wakes up the next morning, he finds Catherine vanished. Was she a phantom? Was it a dream? For a moment, he's not sure. But we see the scratches on his back, so we know the encounter was real. She's left an ambiguous note. She's at the beach. Therefore, Nick is forced to follow her. It's part of that whole pattern of pursuit and stalking that's so important, a dramatic element in this film, and that's embodied in the beautiful score. Now we're out in nature again, where there's a brief encounter, almost as in a bull ring, between Nick and the very jealous and malicious Roxy, clad completely in black leather. This is one of the most beautifully photographed scenes in the film, as we see Catherine without her makeup, with her hair swept back, draped in a simple feminine shawl, all in white, standing like a pagan priestess near a bonfire in the open air, with the rocks and the trees of this magnificent seascape.
Maybe she saw something she's never seen before.
At first, Nick is tender with Catherine, but her jibes make him defensive, and they begin to spar again. The scene goes back and forth between closeness, intimacy, and mutual tension.
Well, what do you think?
I thought it was a pretty good beginning.
We follow the two down the stairs to the beach and see the swirling waters that are a motif representing the kinds of emotional chaos in Catherine herself.
Look what happened to him.
Each challenges the other. They're mutually attracted. Each is determined to dominate the other. Out of this, are they going to be able to construct a normal human relationship? It's one of the questions of the film. Will one or both die? Who will be the victim? Who will be the victor?
Not gonna confess all my secrets, Nick, just because I have an orgasm. You won't learn anything I don't want you to know.
Yes, I will. And I'll nail you.
Nah, you'll just fall in love with me.
I'm in love with you already. But I'll nail you anyway. You can put that in your book.
The script leaps forward in time to the end of the day. We can assume it's a weekend day, since normally Nick would have seen Gus at the police department. It's a Western-themed bar, very odd in the midst of contemporary San Francisco. The symbolism of this bar, called the Stetson, is that of frontier manhood. It represents all of the easy, comfortable, muscular machismo of old America. And this is the place where Nick tells Gus that he has scored with Catherine Trammell. Gus is envious, but also furious, because this has compromised the investigation. Here we also learn, if we hadn't noticed already, that the sex between Catherine and Nick was what would be definitely defined in San Francisco as unsafe, that is, without a condom. Part of the primitive, basic instinct again, propelling human beings to do things that their minds would tell them under more rational circumstances are wrong.
Feeling better?
I feel fine. How could you fuck her?
Gus, come on.
You want to die, Hoss? What is it, those goddamn tourists? You still feel so bad about that, you're wiggling your way into an ice pick? Got too many goddamn tourists coming here anyway. Plenty more goddamn tourists where they goddamn came from.
I'm not afraid of her.
Why the hell not?
I don't know. I'm just not.
That's her pussy talking, it ain't your brain.
Gus, come on, Gus.
IA done did a track on Lieutenant Martin D for Dickhead Nelson. They found a safety deposit box with $50,000 in it, taken out 3 months ago and not used since.
That doesn't make any sense. She didn't know me 3 months ago.
Maybe it wasn't her that paid it. Maybe the money was for something else. How the fuck do I know? I'm just an old city cowboy trying not to fall out of his saddle.
You all right, cowboy?
Yep.
Yeah? Come on, I'm gonna drive you home.
That little pissant car of yours. Hell no. I ain't getting no back pain disability retirement. I'm gonna get me a full pension and a real gold plate Seiko watch.
Move or I'm driving
You
Come on,
I'll let you drive my Cadillac. I ain't gonna let no head up his ass person drive my Cadillac.
When Nick parts from Gus outside the diner, it's the first time he's been a pedestrian, really, for the entire film. Without the protective shell of his car, he's very vulnerable. Suddenly, out of the night, a black sports car emerges like a monstrous apparition in a horror film, like a bat out of hell. Someone has been stalking him. It's Catherine's sports car, the very same one that he pursued over those mountain roads earlier in the film. We can't see the driver, but we assume it must be Catherine. The car tries to kill him. It goes over Nick once, then backs up toward him, hits him again. And finally, Nick is able to rush to the protection of his own car. And then, furious, pursues his attacker. Now we get a very well-filmed chase through the night streets of San Francisco, up and down hills, through neighborhoods, up staircases, embodying that theme of pursuit and stalking, this time with the male going headlong after the female with vengeance on his mind. So we have a replay of the earlier scene, the chase scene along the mountain roads, in exactly the same way as we had a sex scene between Nick and Catherine replaying the opening murder scene. Two scenes, therefore, end in death. The first scene between the murderess and the ex-rock star, and this one, where it's the woman who dies.
You want to play hard? Come on! Come on!
As the two play a very dangerous game of chicken in the streets, the black sports car loses control and goes crashing through a construction barrier, falls several stories to the ground below. Nick rushes down the slope, sees a form with blonde hair lying on the ground, lifts her up, and discovers to his surprise and ours that it's not Catherine, but Roxy. The man, therefore, has obliterated his lesbian rival.
Lieutenant! I got the information.
Well, get it down here. This is your statement? You signed your name to this crock of
Why
shit?
not? It was an accident.
You're driving around North Beach for no particular reason, and this car won't get out of the way.
I don't think she meant to go off the edge, do you?
We have him for a minute here.
No, you cannot. Don't fuck with me on this, Nick. I don't need a reason to put your ass in a sling.
Full name is Roxanne Hardy. Last known address, Cloverdale, California. No priors, no convictions. Car is registered to Catherine Trammell.
You knew her, didn't you?
That's when I met at Trammell's house. All we did is write her name down.
You wrote her name down, and then, big surprise, she rolls her car down the hill in front of you and dies. Is that what you're telling me?
That's all I know.
Well, you know what, then? Fuck you, Nick. Fuck you!
I want you at Dr. Garner's office
I
at 9.
told you to stay away from Trammell.
You didn't tell me to stay away from the car!
I said I want you at Dr. Garner's office at 9
Who
o'clock.
are you guys gonna sell my file to now, huh?
You are out of control, Curran. You hear me?
Hello, Nick. It's Dr. Myron and Dr. McElwain.
Nick?
They've been asked to consult with me on this psychiatric evaluation.
Sit down, Nick.
Nick, we understand you've been having some difficulty controlling your temper lately.
Only in regard to one person. Do you think Lieutenant Nielsen deserved to die? I didn't know him well enough. I won't miss him.
Nick, when you recollect your childhood, are your recollections pleasing to you?
Number one, I don't remember how often I used to jerk off, but it was a lot. Number two, I wasn't pissed off at my dad, even when I was old enough to know what he and Mom were doing in the bedroom. Number three, I don't look in the toilet before I flush it. Number four, I haven't wet my bed for a long time. Number five, why don't the two of you go fuck yourselves? I'm out of here.
What is is your problem? I'm trying to help you. Why won't you let me help you?
I don't want your help, all right? I don't need your help.
Yes, you do. Something's going on. You're sleeping with her, aren't you?
What's this interest you've got in her?
My interest is in you, not her. She seduces people. She manipulates people. She'll do anything she
I
can.
thought you hardly knew her.
I know the type. I'm a psychologist.
That means you manipulate people too, Beth. You're a practicing psychologist. You're better at it than she is.
I feel sorry for you, Nick.
Nick heads directly to the beach house from the police department, driven now, it seems, by human emotion and pity for Catherine. He goes along the edge of the mountain road, through the little mini forest, and then we see his car pulling up through the frosted glass of the front window with that barred effect that we have seen in the balcony at the beach house as well as in the various beds of the film. As he enters, there is a kind of primeval garden inside the house, almost like that of Suddenly Last Summer, ruled by the femme fatale played by Katharine Hepburn. Nick finds Catherine lost in thought, melancholy, rocking as if she's prematurely aged, like the vampire that's given up the fight. She's wrapped in an Indian blanket, reduced to mere personhood. Her diva status is gone. She genuinely mourns the death of her lover. More information comes out. The fact that Roxy wanted to kill Nick is a kind of privilege. Nick realizes that he has indeed in some way penetrated into Catherine's closed, barricaded psychology. Roxy felt it, which is why she tried to annihilate him. He knows he's escaped from death, but he has a kind of masculine pride.
Did you like her to watch you?
Do you think I told her to kill you? Everybody that I care about.
Catherine is weepy, almost childlike. She needs consolation. Nick feels very paternalistic toward her. And they embrace in what is almost a conventional manner now. She leans on him, literally. In order to feel even better, she wants to make love.
Make love to me.
We next see them before a warmly glowing open fire. The color tones of the scene are very reassuring. No more of the glittering glass and blazing blues of the open-air scenes of before.
You think she killed Johnny Bonds?
Catherine nestles on Nick.
What, to set me up?
As if she truly now trusts him.
She wouldn't frame me.
Maybe she got jealous of Johnny, too.
Well, she didn't. She never got jealous before. She got excited. I don't have luck with
Details of her past start to come out, of a girl she knew in college that she had an affair with, and that became her stalker, her double, dressed like her, had her hair done like her, a motif that comes partly from Hitchcock's Vertigo, and that will be the determining plot factor in this film.
Oberyn. It was awful.
I thought you didn't make confessions.
I never did before.
In the next scene, we learn about Roxy's checkered past. She turns out to be a murderess, having killed her own brothers with a razor. It seems that Catherine collects criminality, or rather attracts it.
How old was she when it happened?
16. We seal juvenile records until they're deceased. That's why you couldn't find it in your computer.
What was the motive?
She said she didn't know herself, just sort of did it on impulse. The razor just happened to be there. That's what she said. If you want, help yourself to some coffee.
Thanks.
I don't understand what the hell is going on here, Gus.
Ain't that hard, Hoss. This young farm girl got tired of all that attention going to her little brothers, so she fixed them. Just like old Hazel Dobkins fixed her old family. Except young Roxy here didn't use a wedding present. She used Daddy's razor. Oof. Sure makes you wonder what they talked about when they set themselves down in front of the campfire at night. You ever met a friend of hers hasn't killed somebody? Must have beat your ordinary everyday girl talk.
I'm not sure anymore she did it.
Which one are we talking about now, Hoss? We know old Hazel did it. We know young Roxy did it. And the other one? Well, hell, she got that magna cum laude pussy on her that done fried up your brain.
Oberman, Mark W., Donald M. Sorry, no Lisa. Sure about the year?
Catherine Chamel graduated in '83, yeah. She said Lisa Oberman was here at the same time.
Yeah, we have Trammell. But no Lisa Oberman.
Are you sure about that?
When Nick finds out at the registrar's office at Berkeley that there is, in fact, no Oberman listed in the university's files, he becomes uneasy once again about Catherine. He goes directly to her house and finds Hazel emerging from it. All of a sudden now, he's back to mistrusting Catherine.
Nick, this is Hazel Dobkins.
Their reconciliation and mutual understanding now is in major jeopardy.
Can I speak to you for a minute, please?
Honey, would you wait for me in the car?
I'll be right there.
Goodbye, Shooter.
Like to hang out with murderers or what? You know that Roxy was involved.
Yes, of course I knew. Look, I write about unusual people, and sometimes when I do my research, I get involved with them. It happened with you. Killing isn't like smoking. You can quit. I gotta go. I promised I'd get her home by 6 o'clock. She just loves America's Most Wanted.
There was no Lisa Oberman when you were at Berkeley.
What are you doing? Checking up on me? For what? I said Hoberman.
There's open hostility now between Catherine and Nick.
Lisa Hoberman with an H. You do. All right, thank you very much.
He goes back to the police department to check the files once more, then this time finds Lisa Hoberman, whose image flashed on the screen turns out to be Beth Garner, his psychotherapist and his ex-girlfriend. Her image on the screen, through her many permutations of blonde and brunette, reminds us of Catherine seen on the video monitor in the police station interrogation scene earlier. One of the great questions of cultural history, whether feminists like it or not, is, what is woman? Men have been asking this question for thousands of years. The Bible begins with this question, with Eve, the faithless one, who is allied with the serpent in the garden and leads man astray and causes the entire expulsion from the garden from which we all now suffer. There are images like Delilah, who destroys a man again because of her seductive allure. But very interestingly, in the so-called Apocrypha, never accepted into the canonical Bible, is the image of Lilith, who the ancient legend said was Adam's first wife before Eve. But he divorced her because she demanded supremacy in the sex act. That is, she wanted to be on top, exactly the way we see the murderess at the beginning of Basic Instinct. Lilith seems to have been a Babylonian wind demoness. That is, she was a force of nature, an ill wind carrying a kind of epidemic into man's world.
Do you know what she's doing? She knows I went to Berkeley. She knows I knew Noah. She makes up this story about me. She's handing you somebody who's obsessed with her.
She didn't hand you to me. She doesn't even know who you are. She told me about a Lisa Hoberman.
She knows you'd find out who Lisa Hoberman is. You're a good cop. She tell you casually? Make it seem irrelevant? I mean, did she tell you in bed, Nick?
One of the most vexed issues of contemporary feminism is that of the moral status and meaning of the femme fatale figure, that is, the image of the woman fatal to man. The overwhelming majority of feminist theorists want to call the femme fatale, or vamp, a misogynist libel against woman. These are symptoms to them of male hatred of women, the war with women that's been going on for thousands of years. I myself feel that the femme fatale figure of legend, myth, and modern popular culture in fact tells the truth about sexual relations. It in fact is about male fear of woman, not male hatred of woman. The femme fatale shows that in her supernatural kind of power that woman is ultimately unknowable, not only to man, but to herself. Most feminists today, obsessed with success in the career world, don't want to think that woman has any special connection to nature by virtue of her reproductive apparatus. I myself feel that when the femme fatale is thrown out of the canon of modern popular culture, we lose an enormous amount of the voltage between the sexes that made some of the great films so powerful in the studio era. The origins of the femme fatale are going all the way back, really, to prehistory, to the goddess cults of antiquity. We have myths like that of Medusa, whose snaky head turns men to stone, that is, paralyzes them, castrates them. We have myths of the succubus, a figure who creeps up on sleeping men and causes them to have erections and to behave in ways that go contrary to their ethical code. There are just so many examples of these images worldwide that I have to ask how they could be possibly coming from false social indoctrination. Surely these vampire motifs are being generated automatically in culture after culture around the world by the basic facts of male and female anatomy. That is, that every time a man has sex with a woman, he is approaching again his site of origins. Therefore, there is always subconsciously a fear that as he puts his essence as a sexual being, his erect member, into the body of a woman, well, she might take it and he might never get it back again. Or he might, by some weird nightmarish process, begin to shrink down to a baby again and be reabsorbed into the feminine matrix. A dream like this is, in fact, in one of the great decadent books of the 19th century, where there's a terrible dream of Mother Nature as a whore lying on her back with all of these carnivorous plants between her legs, and the man who's dreaming the dream is being sucked back toward her vagina, toward the womb, as if she had a vacuum cleaner in there. I believe that that is the origin of the myth of the femme fatale. The basic instinct, at its most powerful, in fact, triggers these archetypes in the contemporary audience, whether people like it or not. It's all about this magnetism, this vacuum that the central character is setting up. Men feel drawn to it against their wills, and they know that as they approach the goddess, the femme fatale, that they shrink in power, they lose identity, they're being infantilized.
Gotta do some research tomorrow morning.
What we are seeing is a kind of really the climax of the theme of blondness throughout the 20th century. It may, in fact, have been the ultimate vamp film. After Basic Instinct, it seems that no really convincing and sizzling, authentically sexual femme fatale film has been able to be made. We are in a period of political correctness where men want to be like women want to be like men, and the whole tension and in the ancient sex war has been removed. Men have been scaled down. The gay man, the drag queen have become more the ideals.
Somebody has to die.
Why?
Somebody always does.
Good morning. I'm looking for Dr. Garner.
Oh, she doesn't work here anymore. I think she's up in San Francisco with the police.
Actually, I'm looking for her husband. He works here too, doesn't he?
Dr. Joseph Garner?
Yeah.
She married?
Well, you know,
He died about 5 or 6 years ago.
how did he die?
He was shot.
Thank you.
He was walking home from work. He only lived a couple of blocks away from the clinic. Somebody just drove by and shot him.
What was the murder weapon?
Revolver, 38, unrecovered. Watch yourself.
Were there any suspects?
No suspects, no motive, unsolved.
Was his wife ever a suspect?
You know, one of your guys was down here from Frisco about a year ago, and he was asking the same exact thing. You mind telling me what the hell is going on?
Routine?
Routine. Yeah, it's exactly what he said. Now, I got 2 of you guys coming down here and telling me it's routine?
You remember what the other guy's name was?
No. Can't really say that I do.
Nielsen?
Nielsen, yeah, that was it.
So was she ever a suspect?
Nope. There was some talk, but it never panned out.
What kind of talk?
Girlfriend?
What, he had a girlfriend?
No. She did. But like I said, it never panned out.
Thank you.
In scene after scene, Nick is accumulating more and more evidence that implicates Beth and seems to be exonerating Catherine. He returns now in triumph to her beach house, looks around for her, and has a terrible discovery. The book cover for the novel based on him is on the table. The text of the novel is printing out by mechanical operation. And here's Catherine, now the complete artist, done with him, having resumed her cold demeanor, recovered her sense of isolation and autonomy. She spurns his advances. And now he experiences tremendous humiliation of being dropped by her. He can scarcely believe it. She's turned into the femme fatale again, toying with the male.
Didn't you hear me? Your character's dead. Goodbye. What do you want, flowers? I'll send you an autographed copy.
What is this, some kind of joke?
Catherine's cruel behavior in this scene is very interesting in terms of the psychology of the artist. She shows herself to be more artist than woman. It pulls in the Picasso theme of the movie, because we have seen several Picasso paintings in the generally beautifully furnished modernistic spaces. Picasso has often been criticized for his coldness and his manipulativeness, his calculating attitude toward human beings, and his mistreatment of women. It's been a common feminist charge against him. So it's very interesting that these same traits of superb separation from the ordinary human condition are being attributed to a woman in this movie.
Catherine Trammell's roommate freshman year? I just got a call from her. She's over in Oakland. Come on.
Gus and Nick now cross the Bay Bridge into Oakland, which is several degrees down the social scale from San Francisco. Gus feels very up. He thinks he now is going to be able to find the keys to crack the case. He has a rendezvous with a girl from Berkeley who will tell the whole story about Beth and Catherine. But Nick is very distracted, very down after his maltreatment at Catherine's hands. He's distracted. As Gus is chattering, Nick is barely paying attention. When the car pulls up in front of the building for the rendezvous, Nick automatically gets out to accompany his partner, but Gus says, "No way, you're on leave, I can handle this on my own, we'll be right back." Because Nick is so absorbed in his own emotional and romantic problems, he's not thinking clearly. He's not helping his partner analyze the situation. So what happens in the building, the terrible slaughter of Gus in the elevator, which is forecast, another one of Catherine's novels, in a way, he is a victim of two different femme fatales. The murderess Beth, who dies in this scene, but also in some way Catherine, who by removing some of Nick's normal mental acuity puts his partner in danger. As Gus goes up in the elevator and the car keeps stopping floor by floor, we have a sense of unease that is telegraphed to us by the music. 1, 2, 3. The door opens 3 times. We almost rhythmically expect the murderer to be there, which she or it is. We don't know the gender of the murderer in this particular case. Is a black raincoat. It's almost a kind of ghoulish figure, a grim reaper that one might encounter in a cemetery. The flailing of the ice pick again and again with what seems more than female force replays the murder scene that opened the film. But the slaughter here, the barbaric mutilation of the male body strikes us with a special force as the camera takes us down to the severed neck arteries and the general butchery of the scene. Even the legs holding the elevator door open are horrifying. When Beth suddenly appears in the hallway, she seems as fierce as a gunfighter, part of the Western motif that appears again and again in the film. There's a face-off between male and female. Now, the man with his gun feels powerful. He believes she's reaching for a gun, but it's only keys. The keys, in fact, to the mystery that Gus did find at the cost of his own life. When Nick kills Beth and discovers that she had no pistol in her pocket, he's overwhelmed with guilt and remorse, since this is a replay of the same kind of action that got him into trouble in prior years on the police force.
What makes you think she had a gun? What the hell was she doing here? What was Gus doing here? Nick.
Lieutenant?
One of ours.
Jesus. We have to check Beth's apartment.
38 caliber revolver in the bookcase behind some books.
Have ballistics check it for Nelson.
Lieutenant, you better come in here.
In Beth's apartment, the eerie music recurs as the policemen go through her archive of images of Catherine. She's a kind of obsessed fan and a kind of mutilating murderer that, in point of fact, is usually a male phenomenon.
I guess that's it.
The publicity about Basic Instinct had been going on for more than a year before the premiere of the movie. There were all kinds of nasty things being said about it, that it was homophobic, that it was misogynist. It portrayed both lesbians and women in a manner that treated them as sex objects, as symptoms of psychopathology, and so on. The day the film opened in Philadelphia, the media covered it very heavily because there were loud protests by gay activists out in front of the theater who carried on about how the film shows date rape and how it's a piece of perverse exploitation, on and on. Meanwhile, the local media went to interview the first audiences pouring out of the film. And there was such a contrast between the mood of the sour, prowling activists with their placards and the exhilaration and laughter of the primarily black audiences who had packed the theaters. So with the TV people put microphones in to others, the audience members' faces and said, well, what did you think of the film? They went, we loved it. It's great. It's fabulous. Right there, one saw the disconnect, between the political agenda about this film and the actual audience response. I myself saw the film not in a downtown Philadelphia theater, but in a suburban mall, again packed, and this time with an all-white audience. Well, never have I felt more united with an audience, I think, in my film-watching career. That audience loved it. They were with that film from beginning to end. The film cast a spell from the beautiful opening music to the slam-bang ending. So this is a good case, I think, of the really grotesque elitism of a certain kind of intelligentsia that pretends to speak for the people, but it is in fact wildly divorced from actual popular tastes. When Nick returns home, overwhelmed by the death of his partner as well as his murder of Beth, he finds to his astonishment Catherine waiting. She startles us too. Her appearance is almost like that of a phantom. It reintroduces that slight occult element into the film, which aligns Basic Instinct with the great vampire sagas. Catherine, uncharacteristically now, expresses emotional need, real human feelings. But Nick has almost seen too much. His face remains steely, even in their first embrace. Step by step, though, the lovers begin to reconcile.
I don't want to do this.
But there's no longer any optimism or hope for a happy ending between them. Too much has happened. Too many lives have been lost. Too many ambiguities remain. Their lovemaking, while it begins tenderly, seems to turn ferocious almost immediately. There is a kind of crude, bestial desperation about their orgasms in this scene. Their sex resembles the death scenes we've just witnessed in Oakland. The music remains tense, sinister. It won't allow us to relax. We're still uncertain whether this particular sex scenario in which the woman is dominant, as in the opening scene, will not end in murder. The two lie there almost bleakly, ready to face the future together, but with no illusions left about each other.
What do we do now?
In some way, they're like Adam and Eve, driven now from the Garden of Eden, together in a world of pain. Several times within the scene, it seems as if Catherine could be reaching for a weapon.
I hate Rugrats.
Fuck like minks. Forget the Rugrats.
There's even a moment when Nick himself is overwhelmed by a kind of animal apprehension. Turns, expecting to be attacked, but instead finds Catherine still in a tender mood. The last image is highly ambiguous as the camera pans down and discovers the glittering ice pick beneath the bed, almost like the sword that might be found in a bed in a medieval saga. What is it doing there? Has it randomly rolled there? Did Catherine arm herself to claim another victim? Has the murderer actually been found? Who committed the murders? Basic Instinct ends in a question mark. It's possible that Roxy, Beth, or Catherine did some or all of the murders. We'll never know. Mystery remains over the subject of woman, the greatest question mark in human life. This is Camille Paglia bidding you farewell. It's been a great pleasure spending this time with you talking about one of my favorite works of art, Basic Instinct.